How you doing, Casey?
Good. How are you, Councillor Slass?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Is Councillor Utley joining us?
I believe so.
Okay. Just want to make sure I get everyone introduced. I don't want to miss anyone.
And just to announce once again, we are live streaming through YouTube.
Thanks, Darlene.
Just a reminder, if everybody could change their name accordingly. There are a few Darlene Lombardis, and although I love seeing the name, we'd like to know who you are. So if you could change them, that'd be great.
For those that aren't sure, just right click on your name, on the name that's on your screen, and you'll get an option to say rename, and then just type in your name. Your name should appear, Janice, on your picture on the screen.
Sometimes you have to briefly turn your camera on to figure out which one you are.
I'm not gonna lie, that's been me the whole time. I had the hardest time switching it, and I've literally been on this meeting with you both, all of you probably. I apologize.
I was not going to throw anyone under the bus.
I wouldn't have been upset. It's my fault.
Hi, Nancy. I noticed you have your hand up. We do have a question and answer period at the end. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to. Perfect.
Thank you. Why did it echo?
It helps if you're not speaking to have your volume on mute, where you see the little microphone. If you just click on that, that'll mute it, and it saves all that bouncing of noise.
Well, it's 6:04, so I don't know if Councillor Utley has joined us yet, or And we still have a few Darlene Lombardi. So if everyone can switch their name, as we indicated, you right click on the, or click on the three dots in the upper right, and it'll say rename, and you can put your own name in there. So having said that, I guess we can get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Casey Pongrass, and I'm a planner with the City of Brantford. We're here tonight because we received an application to amend the zoning bylaw for 4 properties, 248 to 260 Grand River Avenue. I'd like to introduce everyone that's with us tonight. We have Councillor John Sless. I believe Councillor Utley is joining us. I'm not sure if he's here or not yet. For the age, we also have Darlene Lombardi and Reza Barzanja working in the background. I think Barb Day might be here as well. Planning staff working in the background to make sure that the YouTube video and the Zoom meeting doesn't have any technical trouble. We also have from the agent side, we have Nick Wood acting on behalf of the applicants. I believe I saw Bob Phillips, who's the engineer on the project. With him, I believe, is Rob Maltani and AJ Kashik, and I'm not sure who else is there from your team, Nick. You can introduce them once I pass it over to you. So the agenda for this evening, brief introductions, and then I'll give the planning overview from the planning staff side. Then I'll turn it over to the applicant for an explanation of the changes that have been made since we last met. And then we'll open it up for question and answer. This meeting is being streamed on YouTube and will be available for viewing afterwards. If you're viewing or have comments or questions that aren't brought forward during the meeting, let me know following the meeting and I'll do my best to have them answered. At the end of my presentation, my email will be on the screen. We do have a large number of registrants this evening, so when we do turn it over to the public, if you could try and keep your comments to 5 minutes or so to make sure that we can get through everyone. And then if we get through everyone and you still have comments, we can certainly open it up and go around again. We do want to hear what everyone has to say, so but we do have a large number of people that would like to be heard this evening. So this is the second meeting for this proposal to receive the public's feedback. Our first meeting was in October of last year. I should note that with the province opening up to the public, the ward councillors have indicated that they would like an in-person meeting. So we have scheduled that for March 28th, Monday, March 28th, from 6 to 8 p.m. and it'll be held at TB Costain. Those notices were put in the mail today, so you should receive them in the next couple of days. We're going to hear what everyone has to say, and the applicants will take these comments into consideration. The next meeting after tonight's meeting and the in-person meeting will be the statutory public meeting required under the Planning Act. Members of the public will also have an opportunity to speak for or against the proposal at that meeting as well. With respect to the application, the subject lands are located on the south side of Grand River Avenue, as everyone is aware. There is an existing 6-story building on the property, which contains 132 units. The current zoning permits the addition of 24 townhouse units as well. The applicants have submitted a proposal to amend the existing zoning, which is flood residential high density with a number 3 exception on it. And their zoning request is to permit a maximum of 318 apartment units. That has changed from the 350 that were originally proposed. And they're proposing a total of 3 6-story apartment buildings. Under the official plan, the property is designated residential, which does permit low-rise, mid-rise, and high-rise residential buildings. So I'll put the new plan on the screen. Basically, I don't have a lot to say about it tonight. We have gone through it once before, and I'll let the applicant explain what the changes are that have been made to the plan. As I mentioned, it is currently FRHD-3 in terms of the zoning, and they are requesting an amendment to that. So having said all of that, I'll pass it over to Nick Wood, who is the agent acting on behalf of the applicant, to go through the changes to the plan.
Oh, thanks, Casey, and thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon or this evening. Sorry, we're excited to kind of present to the public the changes that have been incorporated. One of we took a lot of the comments that we heard at the previous meeting to heart, and I think some of the revisions that we've incorporated, which I'll show you in a couple of seconds, kind of reflect that. And so I think, like Casey mentioned, we're interested to hear some of the residents' feedback on some of these changes, and maybe some of the questions they might have as well. So I'll share my screen. Right. Share. All right. So thanks again, Casey, for that introduction. As she mentioned, my name is Nick Wood. I'm with Corporate Land Strategies. We're the planning consultants on the file, and we're working alongside Maltani Homes, who's represented tonight by Rob Maltani and AJ, as well as we're working alongside Bob Phillips and Cahoon Engineering, who are taking care of, as Casey mentioned, the civil engineering side. And that team is also supported by several other consultants, and we're joined by the architect tonight, Nick. He's done some really great work in providing some detail at this stage. The traffic consultant includes Paradigm Transportation. I'm sure a lot of you would have seen their work around the area. And then as well as landscape architecture and various other engineering staff are also compiled the rest of the team. So, but tonight we want to talk about, like Casey mentioned, the revisions that have occurred. So again, I think Casey touched on it quickly, but I'll repeat maybe some of the background. Again, you're all area residents, so you know this area even better than I do. But I'll touch on it nonetheless. I'll kind of speak to what's happened since the last meeting. We think we've been busy making some of these revisions, trying to figure out what is the most feasible sort of development on this side of things. I'll revisit some of the staff comments that we've received. So like Casey said, since the last meeting, we've gone in for a submission. We've since received comments, and we've done work over the past little while to kind of address these comments. So we'll speak to those. And then we'll also speak to the resident comments that we heard from the October meeting, as well as the ones that we've heard since, and that my client has been working with some of his neighbors. And then we'll specify the revisions that have occurred, speak to the design metrics. So, what are the units looking at, like the number of units, number of spaces, and again, to reflect the changes that have occurred. And then I'll largely touch on everything that Casey has said in terms of what's next for this proposal. So quickly, the subject lands are shown on the screen, as you can see. They're located at 248 to 260 Grand River Avenue, and currently are occupied by an existing apartment building. The area is approximately 2.05 hectares and are surrounded by mixed-use business area, mixed-use business and commercial uses to the east, low-rise residential to the west, low-rise residential to the north, and then Grand River to the immediate south, and the Dyke Trail as well. A couple images just speaking to the immediate context. Again, you've seen this all before. So again, like I said, I wanted to kind of touch on what we've done since the last meeting. So as Casey said, we had the neighborhood meeting on October 7th. We received resident comments, through that meeting, as well as in addition to it, over the course of October and November. And then, there was a couple other meetings with the residents and counselors, again, over October and November, some discussions where additional feedback was provided. And then we received all staff comments on our first submission by November 2021. And, we took that, we incorporated some of the information, the directions that we were provided by staff, the direction that we were provided by residents, and we revised those materials over November and December, and then submitted the revised materials in the beginning of December. So staff have taken those materials and have started to provide comments. And over the past little while, we've started receiving feedback from transportation, from engineering, and accessibility as well. And then, like Casey mentioned, so we've got our second neighborhood meeting tonight. We have a planned in-person open house, I guess on March 28th is the date that it's been set. And then the plan is to present at the committee of whole as part of the statutory public meeting. So quickly, I just want to touch on some of the high level comments that we received from our first submission. So, we had a lot of general engineering comments that were largely technical in nature, asking, confirming some of the assumptions that were provided through our functional servicing report. And fortunately for me, I've got Bob Phillips here who can speak to that if there's any specific questions to that. We received comments from the city's accessibility department. They're speaking to, standards as it pertains to parking, paths, amenity space. And so we had to make updates to that. Transportation provided comments on parking, reduction of entrances as well. That was a key comment that we heard. From the residents, we know that water and sewer capabilities was a comment and a question. Density was an item that was brought up. Traffic volumes, and particularly along Grand River in the broader area. Tenure was a comment that we heard from the previous meetings, as well as urban design. There were some elements of the proposed building that some people had some questions on, and privacy, landscaping, architecture were some of them. So like I said, we took that, and Casey tossed up a revised version, and I've got another one, a landscape plan that kind of illustrates the plan a little bit. But from the comments, we updated our plans, and which resulted in a reduction in units from 109 units to 93 units per building, and that resulted in a total reduction of 32 units. And I've got a table in a following slide that really speaks to that shows the numbers more visually. We increased the number of parking spaces, and through that increase the parking rate from 1 space per unit, whereas previously we were proposing 0.74 spaces per unit. And we heard from residents that there were some issues with parking within the right-of-way. The number of accesses onto Grand River Avenue was closed from 3 to 2. The green area was increased from 28.7% to 31.02%. Bicycle parking was relocated but brought closer to the entrance of the buildings. Further consideration was applied to the type of trees and the size of the trees along Jameson Court, as well as the provision of a 1.8 meter high wood privacy screen, because privacy was an item that was brought up. Through some unique design exercises, the architect was able to actually reduce the height nominally, but it's still reduced as well. So what you're seeing in front of you, and this is kind of an additional what is called a landscape concept plan, and it illustrates kind of the layout. So as you can see in front of you, and maybe I can zoom in a little bit further. But what we have done is one of the major changes that the group has incorporated, in addition to reducing the number of units, because maybe some of the attendees would remember, we had a third entrance around this location of the area, so we closed that. And then, as I mentioned, we've reduced the units from 109, I believe, down to 93 per building. And we did that so that we can incorporate additional parking within the ground floor of each of the apartment buildings that are proposed. So and that's what resulted largely in the 32, the reduction in 32 units. And then within the interior building of the site, just minor layout revisions occurred. And what you've got in front of you right now are some additional renderings that have been updated from the architect that illustrate the east and south elevation of the building. And what's important to highlight is in addition to the materials being proposed, which are have been coordinated with the existing building in the center of the site, again, is the proposed ground level parking. So as I mentioned, we have a quick table that summarizes, the proposed development as it was first submitted, and then through the second submission. So the total number of units proposed, in addition to the existing, from the first submission, which was proposed to be 216 units, is now down to 186 units. It's still within 2 buildings and still within 6 stories. But as I mentioned, the parking now has taken over the ground floor. Building height, as I mentioned, has been reduced from 21.1 meters down to 20.1. And then parking spaces has been increased from 261 spaces to 318 spaces. And that would be about, the second submission parking rate would be about 1 space per unit. And as I mentioned, it would be located at the first floor and surface area. And the amenity space, although we've reduced the number of units, but while still increasing the same height, we've been able to maintain the same amenity space. So a reduced number of residents now have access to a higher amount of amenity space. And that's just a high level overview. I'm sure everyone's going to have some specific questions, and then we can get into that shortly thereafter. But next steps, I kind of touched on this already. We still need to receive, and we're still receiving technical comments from the various departments and agencies. We want to receive some additional comments through this meeting. There, as Casey mentioned, on March 28th, there's a 3rd neighborhood meeting. And then we would be hopefully presenting to council, the committee of whole shortly thereafter. But those are the next steps. And then an item that I don't have included, but I think is important to mention, is that future planning applications still are going to have to be submitted. A site plan approval, which will assess the technical detail of this submission, will still have to be submitted. So there's still work to be done, is effectively what I'm saying. But that's about it, Casey. So I'll stop sharing and I'll turn it back over to you. Thanks a lot for this opportunity.
Thanks, Nick. Councillor Celeste, is there anything you want to say before we turn it over to the public?
No, my main goal tonight is to hear what the public has to say. Thanks, Casey.
Okay, thanks.
It's their meeting.
Yes. Okay, so Darlene, do you want to run the
Yes, currently we have 17 attendees that are online.
okay.
I'm just going to go, we have quite a few, so I'm just going to go in order of first to and
Sure.
then second, third. Nancy, can you hear us? And do you have any questions for us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay. I'm just kind of wondering if the developers, like, I'm listening to what's going on here with the city and the developers. I'm just wondering why, if it's been so, what I've seen is a lot of like complaints come in, a lot of revised has been done, and we're still having the same issue. Shouldn't we, touch base on one thing? They revise it, let's move on. Why are we going back over again over the same issues? I don't get why the city is doing that. That's my one concern. My other concern is I really want to see these buildings go up. I have my mother who's been after me to get into the neighborhood. She's elderly. We have many other people of friends and families that we know that want to come in here. They need help to get in here. They need the lower income. It is a safe place. It's a beautiful building. It's close to shoppings. It's close to the amenities. It's close to the hospital. It's great for the elderly. We have lots of doctors and Brant Ave up there. We have physiotherapies. Like there's so much stuff down here. Plus we have everything. It's cleaned up because of this building being here and bringing the other ones. It's made it safer. We don't have a dumping ground anymore. It's cleaned up the area. It's safe now for kids to go out and actually walk. We see thousands of families walking the trail. We have a dog park not too far from here. I just think there's something that's just dragging on, and I would really, really like to see this wrapped up so we can see these buildings go up. We have so many people, even people I work with. I drive a school bus. I have no problem. I have another girl that just started with me. She's probably will be on the call later today. We drive in and out of these streets. We have no problem. There is no problem for parking. We have about, I think, 30 or 40 parking spaces empty right now out there that haven't been attained. So obviously there's no problem with parking. I don't see any problem with the traffic flow. Today, as we speak, I went out this morning. The trucks were coming down. They tore up the road. And what did they do? The whole road is teared up. They're putting all new pavement. That was great to see the city improve the roads, right? Again, no problem with the traffic delays. If we did, I would not get my kids out to school in time, our buses. We would not make it in time if that was a problem. And if the city can work like that and get the roads and everything nice, let's see the city move a little bit more. Let's get these buildings up. Because all I see is I see the developers working with the people. I see them answering their questions. I see them revising all the plans. So why are we taking so long? Let's get this going. We have people that we need this in the community. Brings more money, brings everything to it. I know if this doesn't go up, I know it would be very, very many families would be very upset because there's so many families in this neighborhood that want their families to come into these buildings. Let's get these buildings up. Let's not keep hesitating on it, please. That's all I got to say for tonight.
Thank you, Nancy. Councillor Slush, you have your hand up. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, I would. And I would just like to assure Nancy, nothing is being held up. There's absolutely nothing being held up. This is scheduled to come to Committee of the Whole in April. So the meetings that are taking place prior to it coming to council. That was the timeline that's been set. So there's nothing being held up. I'm not sure. I guess it's been in the works for a long time, if that's what you're talking about, but that's nothing to do with the city. So if you're thinking the city is holding up, you are incorrect.
Oh, yeah, because I don't know if you can hear me, but I know that it's been like a long, how can you say? It's been a long process. And all these, I've lived in the neighborhood here on Jameson Court myself a couple of years ago, and now I live in the building. And I've known these buildings were going to go up a long time ago, just like every other house knew that it was going to go up. I just don't see why such a big, I know that the developers are working with people like you guys have said, and you've talked about it today. I'm just, I'd like to see it, progress and go forward with this because we all have our families, right? Yeah.
Nobody's disputing that, Nancy. And just to be clear, the proponent, the owner of the land, is asking to change what was approved. There was a building approved and there were 19 townhomes that were approved. Now they're saying they would like to build 3 high rises. And that's a process that anybody has to go through. It's not this particular proponent. Everybody goes through this process. So again, I'd just like to reassure you, nobody's holding anything up, Nancy. As fast as the proponent has been working, the city has been working along beside them.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome to hear. Thank you so much. That makes things a lot easier to know. Yeah, because even I know what they proposed before to what they're proposing now. You know how many families they'd be helping out, how much more it brings up, and how closer it is to the hospital for the people that need it. It's a great, great place. It's a great place to live. We have everything around here, and they're giving everything that everybody is requesting and needs. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy. Casey, next we have a caller in. I'm not quite sure the name, but if you want to speak to and ask a question, go ahead, please.
Sure. Could you just introduce yourself so we know who we're speaking with? Thank you. Are they there, Darlene?
Hello, can you hear me?
There
Yes, we
go.
can
Yes,
hear
we
you. Go
can.
ahead with your question,
Okay,
please.
perfect.
And can you
Hi,
introduce
so I'm
yourself?
Cecil. I actually live in the building. So I just wanted to touch a little bit too, as I actually do school bus as well too. So the parking, I don't see it being an issue. I've heard some complaints. I'm sorry, you're probably gonna hear my daughter. I've heard some complaints that there's not enough parking or that there's traffic and stuff. And if that was the case, they've been ripping up the road for the past 2 days now, and I wouldn't be able to get the kids to school on time if that was really an issue. But I don't see it being an issue. The only thing is, like, we could have a little more visitors, but we're in the works of having the other building, so we can't do that just yet. So I understand people's concerns with it, but I don't see the parking being an issue as much as people say it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Was
you.
that your only question you had?
No, I was asked to, like, just come and talk about, like, some of the concerns that people had. So it was just to have another set of vocals.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we have Mr. Ferdinand Kronberger, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Ferdinand, what is your question?
Yes, my name is Ferdinand Kronberger. I'm a tenant here. I'm retired. I live with my son here, 13 years old, and since last year in August. And what I experience is really that, not for myself, even for my son, he's very happy. He's very pleased in this area. I bring him every day to school. I drive him to school. So I have no issue with the traffic. It's perfect. It's empty street. And basically, you can go any other during the day. Let me say, there is no traffic or traffic jam or anything. Parking you get by week, let me say, the convenience store anywhere at any time. So, and our building is really well maintained, and I feel it's a upper end class and it's for low income. So I really appreciate that. I had the opportunity to move in here. The parking area is also very well maintained and empty. To be honest, on our side, we are actually, I think it's on the west side. There are empty spaces, and on the front side also. So I would say roughly 60% are occupied, and 40% of the parking lots are empty. So there's no issue. The whole time I was living here, there was no issue. You have all the opportunity for walking, and yeah, that's what I can say. And I really am looking forward and that to have a nice building in our area again. I welcome that.
Thank you, Ferdinand. Do you have any further comments or questions?
No, thank you. That's
Thank you.
really, I just want to appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Casey, we have another caller in. If you can hear us, can you please introduce yourself and go ahead with your comment or question? Hello, can you hear us? I think they're having difficulty. Hello, hi. Can you introduce yourself and go ahead with your comment or question?
This is Casey. I currently reside in the building here. I just wanted to kind of address so parking. I'm not having any issues with the parking here. There's visitor parking. Everybody in the building, has a parking other than those who don't have a vehicle. So I think that is good, and I think there's still more room around here that could have more parking for the other building. The other thing I wanted to touch base on is the luxury of having another building come up here, makes this come more together like a community down here, and brings more people down here to have that quality of life on the Grand River. We're also closer to the hospital. So I have some elderly people that I do know that are looking for 2-bedroom apartments and closer to this area. They don't want to be on the other side of town or kind of across the bridge. They love to go for their walks here, and, Brantford and that, and everything is just down the street down there. So, I think that would be really nice to have another building. And a lot of people are looking for 2-bedroom apartments, which, we don't have many around here. And I think it's actually nice to have that building there.
Great. Thank you very much for your comments. Do you have any further questions or comments?
Oh, I think that's everything.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, Casey, we have Mr. Aman Penang. If you would like to go ahead with your comments or questions. Go ahead, Aman. Can you hear us, Aman? Casey, they might be having.
Yeah, we might have to come back to them.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. The next attendee we have is Ashley Gonzalez. Ashley, would you like to comment or ask your question, please?
Sorry, I just unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead with your question or comments.
Okay, firstly, I'm a new resident of 21 Jameson Court, just moved here 2 months ago. We used to live on Dufferin, so I do know some of the councillors there in dealings with the development of 60 Dufferin and the further development what's the street beside? Jarvis. Okay, so kind of used to these meetings a bit. So I want to say that with me is also a resident, Miguel, who lives at number 9 Jameson Court. But anyways, here are my comments. I love the idea of 2 buildings on the existing property. I think it'll add a lot of value to the neighborhood. And obviously we love it with the views, and I'm a runner and biker and so on. So would really add to that kind of outdoor lifestyle. The one question I had is, the little pocket, okay, we're essentially talking about the land at, excuse me, I'm just gonna look at my notes here, at 248. Excuse me for 1 second. The land at 248, which now is going to have eventually 3 buildings, but the properties at 256, 258, and 260 Grand River, they're zoned as a mix of commercial and residential. Can somebody give me some idea of what the commercial aspect of that would be? Are there any like thoughts as to what that might be? Like, is it going to be potentially, a little store or restaurants, a haircutting place, like, or what would that be in Foresight?
So I'll jump in on that. That's what those properties are currently zoned. That zoning is to be removed, and the zoning is to be RHD-3, which is what is on the main building. So there's no anticipated commercial uses there. That commercial use, the permission for the commercial use is there now, and it's being removed and changed to the residential high density.
Okay, that's in my opinion. That's good news. I'll leave it to now my colleagues, Miguel and my wife, Michelle, who is my wife and resides at 21 Jameson, is also on this Zoom, and allow them to speak for a moment. So thank you.
No, Miguel, I'm going to let Miguel speak.
I'm Miguel Barraza. I think most of you know me because I had a lot of questions before. Can you hear me, John? You're smiling.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I think two of my questions have been answered already. You're probably relieved with that. The one about the parking on the first floor, I think, obviously, I looked at the pictures and I guess there's going to be parking underneath both building A and C or whatever. So that's no more a question. And the other one, I was asking about the repaving of of Grand River between St. Paul and Morel. Well, that's answered also because it's happening now. So I only have three more questions left, and I've already asked them. The one is, what is the anticipated, if everything goes through, what is the anticipating date where construction is going to begin? And the two townhouses on the corner of Jameson and Grand River are going to be taken down. This is my first question.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Loud and
Thank you.
clear.
I'll let the applicant answer those questions.
Yep, go ahead, Rob. So the construction for the two new buildings, we want to, get to it as soon as possible. We're hoping we can start those this year. And the older semis on the corner of Jameson and Grand River Ave, those will be torn down prior to construction of the two new buildings.
Okay, and the second part to that same question is, I think Rob knows that right beside my house at 9 Jameson, there's like this big mound of dirt that's about 30 feet high. When would that start to be taken down? Would that be at the end of the construction or at the beginning or during?
It would be right around when the foundations go in. So pretty much at the beginning of construction.
Okay, I have one more question. Should I ask it now or wait till later?
Go ahead.
Okay, item number 61 on your, whatever I saw, when I looked at the new plan proposal, says that Jameson as a primary access driveway entrance, they'll explore having access on Jameson instead of the westerly access. Can you please explain that? It's number 61 in whatever was proposed.
It's Bob Phillips from Cahoon Engineering. There's no desire to have any access to Jameson Court. We think, and I'm sure the traffic people will agree with me, that access for this development should come off of Grand River Ave and Grand River Ave only. In fact, the city, through the development of Jameson Court, has prohibited access to Jameson Court with the establishment of a legal barrier for that to happen.
Okay, so that number 61, what was that all about?
Where is the 61? Is it on one of the drawings, Miguel?
In the there was from number 1 to I don't know how many. There was like all these numbers, and in number 61 of what I'm just looking at whatever was submitted as the new plan. In number 61, like they had a list and they had a bunch of. I'm sorry, I'm not an engineer. They had 60. They had like I don't know 200 items. But number 61 says something about Jameson was going to be explored as a possible entry point.
Okay. We'll, the agent has heard, and we'll make sure we get those drawings amended to have that removed.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, Casey, if he's referring to the comment response matrix. And I think that was just, a previous comment. And like Bob said it, there's no intention to provide an access onto Jameson.
No. So we'll make sure that gets looked after, Miguel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had one last question, sorry. with the current building, we always walk eastward as the building was being developed. And we found that when there was big winds, because there's big winds coming in from the west often, sometimes 70 kilometers an hour. And while there was construction, a lot of the construction material would blow onto the dyke trail over, and unfortunately, a lot of it went in the river. And lately, I know that there's been another bin added to the garbage at the end of the new building, but when there's a big wind, a lot of the garbage bags end up blowing into the trail and the river, because unfortunately I've seen garbage bag on the ice, which unfortunately now is, going towards Lake Erie. And I'm wondering if there's any way to remediate that, to prevent that from happening, because you only have to walk on the trail and look on the right side towards the river, and you'll see there's a bunch of garbage bag there. And unfortunately, the wind has blown it, because we've seen a lot of garbage bags, and I know they've remediated that by adding another bin. But is there anything, because when there's going to be 2 more buildings, there's going to be a lot more garbage. Is there anything that can be done to prevent the garbage from being blown over onto the dyke trail and the river?
Okay, go. Miguel, so originally when we finished the building, our disposal company was on once a week pickup, and that was the issue. They've gone to a bi-weekly schedule, and since that's happened, there's been no more issues of extra garbage around the thing. So they do it twice a week now. They used to do it once a week. So as you've noticed, if you've been walking that, there should be no more issues with that.
Is it possible that somebody can come in and pick up the garbage that occurred before?
Definitely. Yeah, we will definitely look into that, and we'll get some guys out there.
Thanks, Rob.
May I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Michelle. I just have one question. It's only because the little drawing that we got was quite small on the mailing, and I can still barely even get it like on the screen. But okay, so along Jameson, where the current chain link fence is right now, about how far back will that building be? Like, are we talking like just a few meters, or does anyone know exactly? Maybe the architects?
I can share the screen with a little bit, maybe, and zoom into a plan, Casey, if that helps, or Councillor Sless, sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
Share. So I will zoom in. And
It's
I believe
the
it's
setback. 9 meters, that's right, Casey.
9 meters, okay.
Not 9 meters from the current fence?
Fence, Rob?
I believe the fence is close to the property line.
That'd be very close.
Okay, and that's going to be another fence with some cedars, I understand, right? Or a 1.8 or a privacy screen? Is that where that's going to be?
Yeah, so the comments at the previous meeting that the residents wanted, some residents wanted a 1.8 meter privacy screen. We did propose that, and we are willing to do that if as long as the city is okay with that. And we also added a lot of mature trees, like fully grown trees that start off around like 25 to 35 feet along the building, along Jameson Court.
Okay, yeah, I'm just new here, so I wasn't at the other meetings or anything, but thank you very much. 9 meters, that's a good answer. Thanks.
Rob, it's Miguel. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that fence, is that going up to the property line, your property line? As we talked about before? Okay.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Oh, and which building is building A and B? I didn't see that on the drawing either. Like when they refer to A and B, which one is A, B, and C even? The current one is now what?
B, I believe.
B, and A is the Jameson Court?
That's what I believe is the case.
And C is the one near St. Paul.
Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. I couldn't make it out on that little drawings. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your questions and comments. Do you have any follow-ups or?
I'm good.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
We're very, we're positive to see, you know, something nice going up. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Nick, we've had a comment. If you could share your screen again, if you can just leave that plan up. Thanks.
This would have been the site plan that was submitted alongside the submission. It provides a little bit of detail. Sorry, it takes some time to load. My laptop's not as quick.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, it's just a little easier.
Can you blow that up a bit, please, Nick?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm gonna try my best, actually. Sorry, I'll get it back to the full screen.
Okay, while Nick's working on that, Darlene, can you invite the next participant in?
Yes, the next attendee we have is Aman Sohol. Aman, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great, go ahead with your comment or question, please.
Most things have been answered for me, but I live on Bank Street, which is another Multani build. And I think this will be a great thing for the area. It's already cleaned the area up significantly. I've been there for 4 years currently. I missed the deadline. I tried to get my parents in on the first building. So my only question to the builder is how quickly will these buildings be ready?
So it's a team effort. So as soon as we get approval, we will start right away. And our hope is we start this year. And the building should take about a year to construct to a year and a half.
Okay, sounds good. Besides that, everything else was answered. It's made a big impact on the area. There's no parking issues. I've never experienced anything different. No traffic at all in the area. And I frequently use the trail quite a bit, and it's a nice building to look at. Like Multani does a really good job constructing.
Great, thanks Aman for your comments.
Could I just ask Rob, is one building, which building is being constructed first? The Jameson or the other end?
Our plan is to actually construct both simultaneously and do them together. One might start maybe a month or so in advance, but our plan is to do them both together.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Casey, the next attendee we have is Casey Rebello. Casey, can you hear us?
Hello?
Hi, go ahead with your comment or question, Casey.
So I actually already spoke a little bit earlier. I don't know if maybe I took someone else's spot.
Okay, sorry about that. I thought I'd seen you higher up in the list. Thank you very much, Casey.
Okay. Yeah, no.
Okay, the next attendee on the list we have is, I've just lost my spot here. Elizabeth Doy. Elizabeth, can you hear us? Elizabeth, are you able to hear us? I think she might be having some difficulties, Casey.
Okay, we can come back to her.
Right. Our next attendee is Mr. Gagan Gill. Gagan, can you hear us? I think they're having a few
Now I'm a little
difficulties.
nervous that it's us.
No, it's not. Elizabeth, can you hear us? I see their microphones are on, Casey. I think it's their ability to hear on their end. So let's go to another attendee, Jamie Chontos. Jamie, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hi, Jamie. Go ahead with your comment or question.
Just like to say that that building went up really good. All the trades worked together very, very well. Beautiful building. I was in there today doing some filter changes because we are very adamant about changing filters and maintaining of the equipment. And I was confronted about a lady wanting to know if there's any other units and when the next two buildings are going to be ready. So other than that, that's all I'd like to say. And I've done a lot of work with Rob and the Maltanis, and we build good buildings.
Great, thanks, Jamie.
Darlene, Elizabeth has put something in the chat that she can't make her microphone work. In the lower right on mine, anyway, there's the mute button. You can change your audio settings there. I don't know if that will help or not. In the meantime, we can move on to the next person.
Okay, we have Janice Field. Janice, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can, yes. Go ahead with your question or comment.
Okay, I am so far this evening vastly outnumbered. I'm not truly in favor of this development. I've made some comments previously before the first meeting. I'm primarily concerned about the density and the sheer volume of people. Everybody tonight's been talking about traffic, but there's only one building there right now. What happens when there are three? Grand River Ave, I've lived here. I'm on the corner of Jameson and Grand River. Only Jameson Court separates me from the site. I think I'm geographically one of the most close to the site. And I'm very concerned about, you've done a lot on ground level privacy or 30-foot privacy, but I already feel that the balconies in the building that have been built are overlooking my yard. And I don't think my neighbor behind me, my neighbors beside me feel very, there's no privacy anymore. I have a fence at ground level to keep that private. So I'm not thinking that mature trees are going to be 6 stories high in my lifetime. And I suspect that the one tall tree that is there now across from my yard will be lost in the development, I'm assuming, as were the entire tree line along Jameson that was there before the first building was built. So I guess you could say that this is just, my view, which is why we're here. I truly feel that Homedale has done enough in terms of development and provision of additional housing units between Meg Street, Wilkes Street, Jarvis Street, Spring Street, more going up the street, Grand River, the ones on Parkside and Burwell. My preference for this site would be to stick with what was already approved and have townhouse units. That's, the last thing I would say is, to be clear, I fully support development on the site and I've looked forward to it for many years. I've lived in Homedale for 35 plus years. And, there were many ideas that came and went and fell through or for whatever reason. But I also want to say, and it's unfortunate that Mr. Utley's here, contrary to his closing remarks at the last meeting, which I found very dismissive. I'm not bringing any concerns forward because I want to complain and that I'll be fine when it's built. And I'm not opposed to change. I just want the best and right change that's reflective of the neighborhood in which I live. I'm sorry for that. So that's really my comments. Just a couple of questions. I don't understand how a higher roof parapet height provides better privacy. Is that for who? And what is meant by rooftop amenity? Is that a party central or what?
Casey, and I don't, so I guess those last two questions, we are joined by the the group's architect, Nick, and maybe he can kind of describe what's meant by the parapet, and then also the rooftop amenity space.
Yes, can you hear me, Nick?
Yep, loud and clear.
So Nick, the high parapet means when people are sitting, the parapet is so high, so they cannot overlook on the other properties left and right. So only the one side of the building that is facing the river is open up. So the views are encouraged towards the river, not left and right, east and west. That's the response for the higher parapets. Because if they're low and if they're all glazed, people can see west and east. Now they can see only on the front where they're facing the river. That's the response about the parapets. And why they're not glazed now. They're fully materialized. So people, when they sit down, they cannot see, and they're not encouraged to look at the adjacent properties. They're encouraged to look at the river.
When they're where?
When they're on the terrace.
And I'm wondering too if it would be helpful to have Nick, do you have a rendering that might?
Yes, I will bring the rendering. Just you have to give me just a bit of time to open it. Okay. Okay.
Sure.
Just give me a second. So.
And I guess too, while we're waiting to, like, I think the details on the rooftop amenity space haven't been fully planned out. As I mentioned earlier, we're still going to be required to go through, regardless of what happens at the committee, we'll still have to go through site plan approval, which will assess the more technical elements of the proposal. So a lot of the details on the rooftop amenity space will probably be assessed and truthed out there.
Correct, Nick.
Just give me a sec. I will be right with you.
We're getting some background noise. I think a few people have their mute buttons off. If you could mute yourselves. And I see the hands raised. We'll get to those in a moment.
I just need like a little reminder where I shared the screen. Just okay, just a second.
The share screen is located at the bottom.
Okay. Oh yes, I found it. I found it.
Okay, wonderful.
So just give me a second. Here it is. Can you see something now?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
So this is the glazed railing that is overlooking the river. This is the wood fence that provides privacy on the ground floor. The ground floor is now occupied and closed with closures with parking spaces. And this is the parapet that's been talking about. So it's higher, so people cannot, when they sit on the it's a human height level, so they cannot look on Jameson Court. They're all encouraged to look where the views are the most beautiful, the river. And that's the intent of the terrace, not to look at Jameson or 232 Grand River Ave, the older building. They're encouraged to look at the river, hence the full walls on the sides.
But people on their balconies are looking into my yard, regardless. And they already are from the building that is there. And this new building is going to be even closer. So that's my personal objection, and or my neighbors behind and beside, in terms of lack of privacy. And a 1.8 meter fence doesn't really do anything for me, because I already have ground fence on my own property. So my preference here would be, townhouse buildings on that part of the property, so that we're not being looked down upon. And if there's any knowledge moving forward about what the rooftop amenities would be, I'd be concerned about activities and noise levels and things like that. But I guess that comes up later. Those are my thoughts.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Nick, can I close with this, Nick? Just a little comment. I just probably it's a Brantford. You're used to living Jameson Court and all this is nice, but the space from the building to the fence and the width of Jameson and your yards at the adjacent neighboring property. I understand this is a mid-rise, not high-rise. It's a mid-rise building, but there's a plenty of space, so we are not touching the income of sun. So now there eventually will be balconies. And yes, they may overlook your property, but the developer did everything, even bringing mature trees that will probably block 2 or 3 floors of balconies there. So that's the effort that developer is making. And he goes out of his way. I've never done this for other properties to help, because he's part of Jameson too. He's living on Jameson, he's very concerned. And he went on and beyond from his perspective to make this property as humane as possible. I will end up with this, Nick. You can take over, okay?
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, no, I think I'll turn to Casey and Councillor Celeste. I appreciate your comments, Janice.
Thanks, Janice. Darlene, do we have another caller?
Yes, I'm going to try Elizabeth Doy one more time and see if she can hear us. She wasn't able to ask her question or comment. And I'm just going to.
Hello?
Hi, Elizabeth. Can you hear us?
Oh, you can hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
we can. Thank you. Go ahead with your question or concern.
Yes. Hi, my name's Elizabeth. I'm a retired nurse and a widow, and I live at 248 Grand River Ave in the new building. I just want to say that when I became a widow, I was terrified of where I would end up. Everybody knows what the rent is like in Brantford and all the pricing and everything like that. I want to thank the Multanys for giving me a safe, beautiful, affordable place to live. I just love it here. It's beautiful. It's clean. I want those buildings to go up because it'll clean up what's out there now, the mounds of dirt, whatnot. You want to look at that, or do you want to look at a beautiful little community? Everybody in this apartment building, we have each other's backs. I've never seen any problems with parking, with traffic on the street. The only traffic I see a lot of is those big transport trucks that go down there. But, you know, I don't pretend to know what the city's role is in Brantford here, but I'm assuming it's to help people. And a lot of the people I hear complaining, they have nice, safe, warm homes to live in. There's a lot of people that don't. Brantford needs affordable housing, period. I don't see what the holdup is about this. Let them build the properties. And, you know, it just, that's what I think myself. You know, I think it'll be nicer. I think it'll be done very tastefully, very, very lovely. It's going to be nice. I don't know what everybody's complaining about, you know. Anyways, I'm rambling now. I've never done this before, but I wanted to get my 2 cents in. And once again, I see that Mr. Multany sitting right there, and I want to thank him again for the beautiful job he's done and a safe place for me to live. And not all heroes wear capes. Thank you, sir. I'm
Well
signing
said.
off.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, Casey, I think we're going to try Mr. Penang one more time and see if he can hear us. Mr. Penang, can you hear us?
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Wonderful. Yes, we can. Go ahead with your question or concern.
Yeah, perfect. So with this buildings going up, how many jobs is it going to create for the people here?
So what we do is I'm born and raised in Brantford, and also we only hire local trades because we want to keep the economy of the city of Brantford going, and keep all the money that comes through these projects locally and hire local trades. So we also just use local suppliers and that kind of stuff. There is a few people that we have to use out of town. It's in the vicinity like Hamilton and Cambridge, but you know, a project like this would create, you know, hundreds to close to thousands of jobs directly and indirectly.
That's fantastic, because with the economy going as it is right now, a lot of people are jobless right now. So this is a great stepping stone for our economy and Brantford to really create those jobs for the less fortunate at this time. So that's amazing as well. And to be very honest, I've been living at 248 Grand River Ave as well recently. It's an amazing apartment, great amenities, and the great thing about it is the affordability. So this will definitely help others that are not able to afford really be able to live in this affordable community and really enjoy the views, the city, and everything else.
Thank you very much. Do you have any follow-up comments or questions?
Nope, I'm good.
Great, thank you very much. Casey, our next attendee is Mr. Paul Nickel. Just wait for him to unmute. Paul, can you hear us? I think they're having a little difficulty knowing how to unmute themselves at their end.
Yeah, there's a couple of people that we tried before that
right.
Gag and Gill was one of them.
Yeah. I'll try Mr. Gag and Gill as well. Mr. Gill, can you hear us? Yeah, I think they're having difficulties knowing how to unmute themselves on their end. Let's go to Summer Mannon. She is the last one on our list of attendees. Summer, can you hear us?
I can. How are you?
Wonderful. Go ahead with your comment, question, or concern.
Fantastic. I just have a comment here. I just wanted to start by thanking the Multani Group for taking into consideration any issues that might have been arise with the buildings going up and addressing the issues. I do currently live on 58 Grand River Ave. And I did want to comment that as I've been in the area for 5 years, that I have not noticed any change as far as traffic goes with the one building going up. There has been a lot of construction in the area, which I think has played a part on traffic having to be redirected. There was construction going on St. Paul's. There was construction going on Grand River itself. There's even current construction that finished on the road on Church Street. As far as like parking goes, I haven't noticed any difference in the parking. I also did live on St. Paul's, so I kind of have justification on both areas. I also wanted to note that I do think that the buildings are quite positive for being affordable housing that are going in. I myself at one time, needed a little bit of assistance with everything, with prices on rent and whatnot jumping up for us. It's kind of refreshing to have the option of something that's more feasible for potentially possibly one income, which is fantastic. Only issues I've seen with traffic in the area would be speeding, but you can't justify speeding as a direct correlation to the building and traffic. I like that the Multani Group had made a comment about the garbage and taking responsibility for that. I also want to bring note that we come the summertime, springtime and whatnot, that it wouldn't just be garbage from the building, but more so of say people potentially living down by the river. I know that that situation had caused a lot of garbage buildup and whatnot that I had noticed as well. I have lived in Homedale for a while. I do appreciate the area, and I think that it's great that we're building our community.
Great, thank you, Summer. Do you have any follow-up questions or concerns?
I personally do not. I just wanted to thank them for doing a great thing and for spreading our community and making it larger for such a great area.
Thank you.
No problem.
Casey, we do have two more attendees. We have Ula Maltani as well as Tracy Rebello. And Tracy, if you can hear us, go ahead.
Hi, yes. I just have a couple comments. I recently live in the building, but a few years ago, I did live on Jameson Court. I did sell. When I did live on Jameson Court as a young woman, walking to the corner store there, Vic's, I was terrified to walk past that field. Not only that, it was junk and debris that would build up there from people just pulling over on the side of the road and throwing their garbage there from their trucks. As a young woman, I was terrified to walk by there thinking that, I might get raped or kidnapped. And there's a lot of children in that neighborhood. So by getting rid of that field that just is full of tall grass and garbage, by bringing lots of jobs and security, like Maltani's put a lot of security in their buildings. So it just brings me a warm feeling that I've actually put my house up for rent and I will be living there. I also work in the area as a UPS driver. And as a driver in that area, I deal with the traffic on a day-to-day basis, dealing with, big trucks, little trucks, school children, everything. I spend generally about 5.5 to 6 hours in Homedale alone on an average as a UPS driver. And the traffic is beautiful. Now, get me wrong, Brant Ave, not so much, but you can't help it because it's got the high schools. But down Jameson in that area, it's gorgeous. Also, the walking, the trails. I have a big dog. I have a 130-pound dog. So now that I live 6 minutes from the dog, a 6-minute drive from the dog park, it is wonderful. It's also only a 25-minute walk. So it's great exercise to and from the dog park for me. And I feel a lot more safer walking down the alley, down the pathway as well. I just wrote a couple things down here. Fernando or something, someone said that the upper class living, I love the fact that the Maltanis brought in such a rich looking building at such an affordable cost for anyone who can't afford to go live in places like Burlington or Mississauga. You're getting that beautiful look down here on the river for a beautiful price. And honestly, I can't wait for his next building. My grandmother is dying to come from Cambridge. She is 77 years old and she's dying to meet some friends in the neighborhood in her building. So I'm glad that there's going to be a community space where they can all meet together and enjoy, because there isn't that much, especially close to downtown. In that really bad downtown area, there's a lot of drug problems. So by giving them that multiple buildings and community area, it just gives them a safe place to buy their homes to be. So you know what? Good job, Maltanis. Keep up the great work. I look forward to your projects in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Okay, up next we have Ula Maltani. Can you hear us? Would you like to speak?
Hi, I hear you guys. Good night.
Great. Go ahead with your question or comment or concern.
I was in first meeting. I'm right now in the second meeting. I hear everything and I saw big difference how was before this place look, how is now. Before was really scary, like another person said before. And what about those balcony privacy? I just would like to say, those people who living in the building have nothing to do, no any business to looking of somebody's life. We buy in the Jameson courthouse and I have apartment building looking of my backyard, 6th floor, and another apartment building, just one parking from my fence, one parking cars from my fence, 3rd floor. Those people, honest with you, they're looking off my backyard. I have swimming pool, we're doing tanning. And for those people who think they take my privacy, it's not true. I just would like to say that.
Thank you, Ula. Do you have any other further comments or questions?
No, I'm good.
Great, thank you very much. Casey, we have a Mr. Paul Nickel. Paul, can you hear us? He's having troubles with his.
Are you able to unmute from your side, Darlene, as the host?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you,
Yes,
Paul.
we
Thank
can.
you very much. Go ahead.
Okay, I live on Jameson Court, and Multaney's, like, when they built my house, I just wanted to say, like, I mean, a lot of these issues that people are having, you know, with, you know, issues with, like, you know, the garbage, or if there was an issue while they were building the site. I mean, Rob and his dad and Vic, any of them are approachable. If you had an issue with the way something was being done, I mean, you could go up to them and they would do it. I mean, when my house was being built, I mean, a couple of months after we moved in, there was issues, and every time we had an issue, they came over and fixed everything. So anything after the fact or while it's being built, I mean, these guys are so approachable that, you know, it wouldn't be an issue if you had any problems or anything. And in my opinion, as far as like people complaining about privacy, I'm sure that them putting these trees up and that, I've seen other complexes like this where they don't do anything to try and block anyone's privacy. So the fact they are actually putting trees up, I'm sure that's not a requirement. They're probably doing that to try to accommodate people. So I just wanted to say that. And I mean, the building that's up there now looks perfect. I like it. It's beautiful. And that's it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Paul. And Casey, Nancy LaCourse has a follow-up question.
No,
Nancy,
I didn't really have a question. I just want to make a comment because, I mean, the people that have any concerns about some of these minor things, you know, you just talk to Rob or his dad and they would, you know, fix these issues anyway.
Okay.
I mean, the only question I really had was, and this is probably something I could ask, you know, Rob himself, but a friend of mine's looking at getting one of the units. So when the new buildings are built, who gets the like the underground parking units?
Sorry. Paul, thanks for your comment. So it's not really underground. It's called main floor parking. So it doesn't go into the ground, but it's main floor parking, and it would probably be on a first come first served basis. So whoever, you know, takes the units first would get priority on parking, I believe.
Yeah, it'd be like a garage right on the main floor.
Yes, but it won't look like a garage from the street. It'll be all solid surfaces, so you won't see the vehicles from any angle of it. It'll just look like it's another floor on the building.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Great, thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you.
Nancy, can you hear us with your follow-up question?
Yes, I can. My
Go ahead,
question's
please.
for Mr. Multaney. When you put in the subdivision here for the Jameson Court, when you put that all in there, was those two big red buildings there already?
Yes, those buildings.
So then everybody's backyards that backed onto them, they lost their privacy. They all knew what they were buying at that time, right? Because that's looking right in everything, no privacy. So I don't know how building over here on this side is going to be worse than what they got here. We've only got a couple stories on this side. That's two full red buildings overlooking their backyards. And every house there who bought it before already knew that that was there. So I don't see why it's such a big thing now about privacy, when before they bought it, those buildings were already up there. I just wanted the city councilors to know that it was already there before they decided to buy it. At that time, it wasn't a privacy issue for them when they wanted to buy a house for themselves, right? If it was, we would have bought, you know, people would have bought out in the country. So if it wasn't an issue then, I don't see how, I don't know how many yards across on the side is going to be an issue all the way over here looking down at them. I just wanted the city to understand that for a fact. Thank you, Mr. Multaney. That's all I had.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Darlene, I still see a couple of names that we haven't heard from yet. One is Gagan Gill and the other is Jamie Chontos.
Yes, I think they're having difficulties, but let's try again.
Okay.
I can't navigate on their end with the mute button. I can only ask them to unmute on my side here. So Gagan, can you hear us? Gagan, is that you?
Okay.
Okay, let me try Jamie one more time. Hi, Jamie, can you hear us?
Okay, they
I
must
think
be having
they're-
issues.
yeah, they're
I know
having
that Gagan typed in the chat box that they support this project. First building looks great and can't wait to see buildings 2 and 3 finished. So, Jamie, if we can't hear you, maybe you could put what you'd like to say in the chat box. Oh, somebody's there.
Oh, sorry, Casey, it's us. But from our list, it seems like Jamie's already spoken. We're just taking notes over here. I believe Jamie has spoken.
Let me see here. Oh, we did have a Jamie, didn't we? Okay. So the only one we haven't heard from, I think, is Gag and Gill. I've just read what they had to say. Is there anyone else that either wants to speak again or we haven't heard from? If you could, in the lower area, there's a raise your hand. If you raise your hand and we haven't heard from you, then Darlene will know to call you.
Yes, it's along the bottom of your screen.
The other, if we weren't able to hear you tonight, the other option is on the March 28th public meeting. If you attend that, or you can also, and I'll pull this up on the screen. I'll put my my email address up on the screen. See if I can share that. Oops, that's the plan showing, I think. I must be sharing the wrong thing. For some reason, oops, there it was. Is my email address showing on the screen?
Yes, it is, Casey.
Okay, good. All right, so I don't see any other hands or anyone wishing to speak. Councillor Sless, is there anything you'd like to add, or Nick, anything you want to follow up with?
No, I think if people have had their say, I would just like to say thank you for everybody that came out this evening. It's good that we get a good public airing, and as you can see, there were a lot of technical things, and that keeps a lot of people away, and that was the reason that Councillor Utley and myself thought there should be an in-person. Now that the pandemic is allowing that to happen, it allows everybody to participate, not just those that have a computer or that are literate enough to be able to join a Zoom meeting. So I'd certainly like to thank those that took the time out of their evening this evening to come out and have their say. It's important. I've certainly listened, and I got a call from Councillor Utley. He was having technical difficulties. He couldn't get in, so he sends along his regrets, and I just want everybody to understand he didn't duck the meeting. He simply couldn't get in. So having said that, I would just like to again say thank you to everybody that showed up, and thanks to the Multani group for taking the time to do the presentation and to listen to the folks. I think we heard, or we've been able to view that a number of changes have been made based on what people are saying, and that's a good thing. So I'm looking forward to the 28th, and I believe it's the second week of April. I'm not sure of the planning meeting. I believe it's the second week of April is the committee of the whole planning, when this would be discussed and decided upon at City Council. And at that time, that is a public forum as well. And if folks again want to have one final comment before council votes, they have the opportunity to come in person that evening or by Zoom and make delegation and have their say, whatever it might be. So again, thanks to everybody, and thanks to the staff and all the the folks that accompanied the Multani group this evening to present their expertise. I thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Sless. And with that, if there are no further questions, I'll adjourn the meeting. And if you think of anything that you didn't mention, certainly you can email me and I'll make sure that it gets forwarded to the councillors and the applicants. So thanks everyone for attending.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the Multanis, we think the meeting was good and productive. Thank you.